Hey guys, it's Ken here from shop3d.ca. Welcome to another product feature. Of course, today we have one of our biggest in the fleet, and that of course is the brand new Form 4L. I have with me Cha from our technical team who will be able to answer all of the questions that I can't answer for you. So let's dive in. Of course, here we have the 4L, and as you can see, it is a big unit. I think it's actually bigger than the 3L back there, and of course, the Form 4. Cha, tell me, how much bigger is it if it is bigger?
Yeah, so the Form 4L is about 13% larger than the Form 3L, and it is 4.6 times larger than the Form 4. You can see on the build plate here, so that's a Form 3L build plate, and next to it is the Form 4L build plate. And there is a noticeable increase along the length of the build plate, and that's going to be where the significance of the build volume is going to increase.
That's actually a pretty significant upgrade just from a size perspective.
Yeah.
Now, compared to the 3L, we have a very different light engine. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so on the Form 3L, what Formlabs used was a laser system on a gantry that moved along the x-axis. So as the LPU sort of moved along, the laser would anneal the resin, and it will just move back across. On the Form 4L, the big difference is now what they do is they use a LED projection array, and it consists of 146 LEDs. It still operates on 405 nanometer UV length, and it has a power output of 16 milliwatts, which is significant.
Can you tell me a little bit about how much faster we can print compared to like the Form 3, and is it about the same speed as the Form 4 or even faster than that?
Oh, it's much faster than the Form 3L. Comparatively, most of the prints can be completed on the Form 4L within about 8-hour period. Most of the prints with standard resin within 24 millimeters can be completed within 24 minutes.
So we got bigger build volume, faster speed. Let's talk about some of the features, physical features, of this printer. It's a little bit different than the Form 3 in that the door opens sideways down here, and there are lights as well. I think it looks fantastic, opening from this perspective, and it actually looks bigger because you can access more of it. Cha, can you tell me some of the differences, between some of the hardware? Like we have a new wiper system, and the resin tank and resin build platforms are a little bit different as well.
So down here is the upper LPU unit. On the surface is the perforated sort of texture. This helps during the print of alleviating any sort of outside forces outside of the actual print. In this printer, there are a number of force sensors. So the printer is actually capable of detecting when the peel force stops. So when the peel process is complete, and it'll quickly move on to printing the next layer. This also dramatically increases the speed during the print process. Another improvement that they've made is the resin tank. You can sort of see that the resin tank film has changed from what it was when we were printing with the Form 3L. And this has a number of benefits. So the resin tank now will last much longer. They estimate 75,000 peels per tank. And that is a dramatic increase compared to the old Form 3L tanks.
And I think it's important to note that these new resin tanks are now no longer resin specific, so that if you have different resin on there, previously when you had high temperature resin, it would make the tank last less. So,
that's right. Yeah.
But now it's pretty consistent throughout whatever resin you put in, correct?
Correct, yeah. So before there was high temp, people that use Tough 2000, Rigid 10K, these were considered high wear resins on the old Form 3L tanks, and that has been reduced with the new Form 4L tank.
So I see that there's kind of a wiper reminiscent of our Form 2 days. Why did we go back to having a wiper again?
Well, I think this wiper on the Form 4L has also improved significantly. The motor that drives this wiper, first of all, is much faster. So this wiper travels across and back much faster. The wiper arm takes care of 3 key areas. One is it ensures the mixture of the resin is consistent. 2, it makes sure that the coverage of the resin on the tank surface is evenly distributed. And 3, it can detect the debris on both the resin tank as well as the build plate.
Awesome, Cha. Well, I'm gonna close this door right now, but I do wanna compliment Formlabs on their industrial design. I mean, this printer looks stunning. It's made of metal, plastic, it's got a nice large screen. You can see clearly what you're printing all the time. The lights are put in a great position, and just how strong the gantry looks. I think it's a fantastic thing. There's also a hook up there. And what is that hook for?
Yeah, so that hook is to place the build plate inside. So what you can see is, what'll happen is once you're done printing, you can actually take this build plate. So let's say that we're printing and the print is complete. We can take the build plate out and hang it. And so this way, any excess resin can drip into the resin tank. It's a convenient place to store your build plate as well.
Now I want to talk about some of the improvements, over maybe the Form 3 series and even a little bit over the Form 4. Some of the, let's say, gripes we've had, minor gripes of course, is that, for example, it filled, being such a large printer on the 3L, that it fills quite slowly for resin. Has that changed, Cha?
Yeah, so yes, it has significantly changed. So one of the things is the Form 4L, first of all, come with the new pumping system for the 3-liter resins. The rate at which the resin is filled is dramatically, I would say like 4 or 5 times faster than any of the previous resin cartridge designs. I think before with the Form 3Ls, we used to sort of pour 1 tank of resin into the tank directly so that we can skip that half an hour process. Whereas this one, you won't need to do that. The resin will flow right out of the cartridge and into the tank.
And of course, with the Form 4 series, we have a different shape to those resins, but there's actually a lot of benefit as well, because now the standard resins are not only upgraded, better formulas, V5, but they're also cheaper. So I think the running cost for your printer will actually decrease, especially if you're using 2-3 liters per print if you're printing something really large. With a more powerful light processing unit and engine, what can we expect from future resins? If you can speak a little bit to that, or how do the current lineup of resins perform under this new LPU system?
Yeah, so one of the popular resins that I like to use is like something like Tough 2000 or Tough 1500, which is a very common sort of resin that we use now. On a visual basis, you'll notice right away that the part looks much better coming off of Form 4L than it did coming off of something like a Form 3L.
And just from our testing alone, when you were using clear V5, we're seeing better surface quality and clearer prints, see-through prints for clear. And with the new 1-liter V5 being just $99 USD, we're seeing an immediate 33%, basically discount over the previous standard versions. If you were just getting the Form 4, you'd have faster speed, but Form 4L is really higher throughput, bigger prints, more resin, more prints going through at one time, and prints that are going to be finished within the day versus previously when it would take up to 24, 36 hours for a larger print. Now, Cha, I want to talk about how smart this device is, because they've put a lot more sensors, they put a lot more thought and engineering into the Form 4L compared to the Form 3. Can you tell me some of the new sensors that are now integrated into the system and how that is reflected in the interface as well?
let me open this printer up right here, and so I can point to the devices on the inside. So there is a added web camera now on the Form 4L, which will capture sort of time lapses. It can give you a sort of, you can take a picture and see where you're at in the print, and it will be sent to you through dashboard, if people are familiar with dashboard. Over here is an ultrasonic sensor to detect the resin level. But my favorite sort of new sensor design that Formlabs came with is it can actually detect the peel force. So when the build plate sort of comes down and makes contact with the tension on the resin tank, the sensor will trigger. And when it sort of raises during the peeling process, it will detect the spike of the peel force on the resin tank surface. And when it no longer detects that force, it knows that the peel process is complete and it will move on to the next layer.
Thanks, Ja. So I'm gonna close this right now. So I wanna talk a little bit about business. Who would make use of most of this? Are we talking engineering? Are we talking artists? What are we talking about? And who is this printer made for?
So Formlabs also, we are looking at the Form 4L here. There's also the Form 4LB unit, which is for biocompatible materials. So the industries are going to be dentistry, medical, aerospace, mechanical, prototyping, architecture. I find architecture, especially with such a large build volume and a machine that's capable of details of up to 50 nanometers, the architecture models will come out very clearer. Formlabs also tells with the new LPU unit, the dimensional accuracy of the prints have also improved in comparison to the Form 3L. So that's important with a number of sort of industries.
With a machine this big, would this be a good choice for a service bureau to have as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So service bureaus is generally, you want to prototype large parts quickly. This is going to be the machine that I would recommend. Due to the volume with the MSLA technology, you are able to do low production of large parts fairly quickly and at a much lower cost.
Yeah, and this sample part, which is a vacuum forming die, with SLA, we can actually have very tiny holes where the air can be escaped through it when you do the vacuum forming. And I think that's just not quite possible for an FDM printer to resolve.
Yep, absolutely. So one of the major things is internal channels with resin parts. So if you have like a cavity or a channel that is relatively small, 2 millimeter in diameter, that feature is going to be really hard to come out on an FDM print. Whereas on a resin printer, this is just what it does.
Now, Charles, looking at this, if I was the first time user of Formlabs, I could be pretty intimidated by this system. Tell me why I shouldn't be.
Yeah, so it is ginormous, but a lot of the things that Formlabs does make it much easier for the user, because a lot of the sort of sketchy parts of resin handling is actually done automatically by the machine. When you take the part out, later on we'll talk about the accessories, but you basically can take the build chamber out and place it into a form wash, and then that part is sort of hands off, right? The automatically filling of the resin tank, you don't have to manually pour resin into the tank, a huge relief, especially for a printer for this size. Beyond that, Formlabs has made several improvements in their system with remote support. If you encounter an issue, you can contact Formlabs and they'll just over air correct the issue if it's possible. And a lot of these things will take the process of printing with resins. It will take you can take a little bit of peace of mind when you're using a Formlabs printer.
So let's put it this way. This is the Form 4L, so it's the 4th generation. Formlabs has a lot of experience in making it easy for the user to use SLA machines. With the 4th generation, we're almost at this peak where it is super simple to use.
Yeah.
That being said, the printer might be easy to use, but what about software? How do I get design to this printer?
So Formlabs have been actively improving Preform, which is their slicing software. And Preform has gone through quite a few iterations of improvement. So what do I mean by that? Support generation, how you can edit how the support is generated onto the model, which is a major sort of feature when with people that are familiar with resin printing. They've also added 4 new tools in Preform, so you can hollow out your prints to save on the resin. You can put in the drain holes. You can put text, so you can label your individual parts as different models. And what they allowed is some basic textures that you can alpha map over your 3D models. And I thought that was a really cool sort of feature.
So are you saying it's so easy to use hardware and software wise that if I was new to this, how quickly can I get started?
Yeah, you can get started within about 15 minutes.
15 minutes from unboxing to printing.
So I would say once the printer is set up, it will take you about 15 minutes to go through the sort of workflow process. Keep in mind, Formlabs has step-by-step graphic instructions that you can find either on the screen or in Preform or on their website. And these instructions are very clear and simple to understand, and you can get started within about 15 minutes from turning the printer on.
Amazing, Cha. Listen, I have some rapid fire questions for you. Can I use resins other than Formlabs resins?
Yes, you can. Formlabs does have a third-party resin program now.
Is it free?
No, it will have a cost, but I think for people that are in the industry and they have a specific resin that they've been using over time that's been certified for their process, you know, it's worth it.
Are the resin cartridges the same between the Form 4 and the Form 4L?
Yes, the resin cartridges are the same between the Form 4 and the Form 4L.
Is this screen bigger than the Form 3L?
That's a good question. Yes, it is. Noticeably bigger.
Why should I buy this printer versus 3 Form 4s?
That's a great question. So basically the consideration is, do you want flexibility and control over your time? I think that's one of the major considerations. The next major consideration is you know, the size of the component that you're trying to print. Those two are going to be the deciding factor of whether or not you want, you know, an array of Form 4s, or do you want to go with the beast that is the Form 4L.
Fantastic. All right, so let's talk about accessories now. With the Form 3, we had the whole workflow system. We had the Form 3L, the finishing kit, and a washing and curing process. What does it look like for the Form 4L? Yeah,
so in terms of post-processing, you can still use the Form Wash L. As I showed you in the beginning, the build plate size length has changed. So you will need an adapter plate to adapt onto the Form Wash Generation 1.
But what if someone is coming from a different environment? Let's say they had a hobby printer and now they're looking for something a little bit more serious to do some service bureau work or some PTOs for people. You know, what can they expect from the Formlabs ecosystem as an upgrade to what they previously had before? Like, can you talk a little bit about the resin portfolio and some of the capabilities that they would gain from that upgrade?
Sure, yeah. So there's a significant improvement.
Are you speaking from experience here?
I'm definitely speaking from experience. So one of the comparisons that I would draw is the Formlabs ecosystem is a very sort of hands-off system. I barely make contact with resin. What I mean by that is, from the beginning of the process of loading the resin to taking the print off the printer to cleaning it up, I'm making minimal contact. Beyond that, in resin printing, one of the major concerns I think a lot of people have is the off-gassing during the print process. Now, in hobbyist printers, a lot of these resins use a hazardous chemical in order to achieve that effect. Whereas because Formlabs formulates their own resins, they have forgone some of these hazardous chemicals. And it is noticeable. As somebody that operates in both hobbyist printers as well as printers like this, you can smell the difference, really.
And can I ask you about specifically the resin portfolio? Because that's a really strong point that Formlabs,
for sure.
That we've experienced using Formlabs. So how does that compare between some of the materials that Formlabs has, and maybe highlight a couple versus some of the hobbyist resins out there that's available on Amazon?
Sure, yeah. So I do see that in a lot of these less expensive printers, they're capable of printing certain materials. The issue that I think a lot of users encounter is that they're not sure what the exposure time is, they don't know what the settings are, so they have to sort of fiddle around to figure out the right dimension, and they're wasting a bunch of materials to try to get their first print off the ground. Whereas this system, you never have to encounter that problem. Formlabs has the material profile dialed in, you're ready to go. So you get what you want to get done on your first try, which, along with the consistency and reliability, it's just such an ease of mind and, in comparison.
Yeah, I think that's right. A lot of the resin portfolios and profiles are already built into Preform. So once you select the material during your slice, Preform is already going to account for, the shrinkage rates and some of the technical details of each of the resins that are in the Formlabs portfolio. And that's kind of the advantage of having a semi-closed system where the resin is designed for this printer and they're both from the same manufacturer. That's how you can get that seamless experience from software to hardware.
We provided a lot of information, so maybe you can give us some key takeaways when we're looking at the Form 4L.
Sounds good. Let's wrap it up. This is the Formlabs Form 4L. It's the flagship SLA product that they have. If you are on a 3L right now, you should definitely upgrade because this will provide a tremendous speed upgrade. If you are on a Form 4 and you need bigger build volume, this is where you're gonna be. If you're on a third-party, more hobbyist system, I think this would be a tremendous professional upgrade so that you can do more service bureau work. So I think overall, this is a fantastic upgrade. One of the limiting factors, of course, is you're gonna need the space. If you have the space, then you're gonna be able to do big prints with this system. It's gonna have a fantastic hardware and software mix, and the resin portfolio from Formlabs is one of the best we've seen, and it's world-class. Right now, if you already have a Form 2, Form 3, Form 3B, even a Form 4, and you want to upgrade to the Form 4L, there's actually a fantastic upgrade program. You're gonna save thousands of dollars off of Form 4L, and you don't have to turn your unit in. So make sure you contact our sales team today, and we'll tell you all about the deal and if this printer is right for you. There you have it. This is the Form 4L from me and Cha. Thanks for watching.